Part 32. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 311. At the palace banquet, the guests and hosts enjoyed themselves, and the monarch and his ministers enjoyed themselves together. The princes of Ziki, Uncle Qin, and King Zhenbei didn't dare to speak the whole time. They couldn't say anything to ask the emperor to take back his life at this time. They couldn't say anything to compliment the eldest princess, so they could only suppress all dissatisfaction and quietly listening and watching, sometimes echoing a few words. The prince and his ministers did not dare to say anything, and other ministers did not dare to cause trouble for the emperor at this time. Rong Yu, the regent of Dongling, and Yunting from Shu didn't say much, and the whole game was left to Nan 11 and Yeching Cheng. There was naturally a reason for this. Ziki established the princess as the princess, which was opposed by most people. However, Nan 11 and Yeching Cheng were both queens. They were both women. It was normal for them to speak for women. They wanted to show these people that women can also do what men can do. Yes, and can do better. Don't give in and hold it back. The birthday party didn't end until the evening. During this period, no one bothered anymore. As for the fifth prince Chu Tianzheng, who was taken out by Rongzhan for discussion, he never came back. After concubine Duan left the table, she ordered someone to search for her. After searching for a long time, there was no movement. Of course she didn't know that her order was no longer effective. The person responsible for searching for the fifth prince was only a servant of the palace, and Rongzhan only a random order would naturally make them unable to find anyone. In the evening, Chu Tianzheng was helped back to the prince's residence by the guards. After receiving the news, concubine Duan hurried to the prince's office and almost fainted from anger. Chu Tianzheng could not see any scars on his appearance, and the clothes on his body were not damaged at all. However, after taking off his clothes, his entire back was covered with blood. There were hideous red marks covering almost every inch of the upper body. Every scar was covered with red threads, and in severe cases, there were lines of purple bruises. Some of them were swollen and congested, which looked very scary. It hurts, it hurts. Be gentle. Chu Tianzheng lay on the bed in pain, accidentally pulling on the injured area, which made him howl in pain. What are you doing with your hands and feet? Do you want to die? The palace maid apologized tremblingly, and even applying the medicine was a difficult process. Concubine Duan frowned and looked at the injuries on his body, her expression extremely ugly. Damn Xianyu and Rongzhan, Chu Tianzheng cursed him. He must have evil thoughts towards Chu Qinghuang, otherwise how could he protect her like this? He and I are incompatible. I must let Chu Qinghuang die before she dies. It's hard to eliminate the hatred in my heart. That's enough, concubine Duan said coldly. Please be quiet for a while. Are you afraid that the emperor can't hear what you say? Chu Tianzhen's face turned pale in pain and he was covered in cold sweat. Concubine, I'm going to die from the pain. Bear the pain. Concubine Duan took out the handkerchief and bent down to wipe the cold sweat from his face. Don't show your face in front of Chu Qinghuang during this period. Avoid her if you have nothing to do. If the emperor doesn't, even if you are summoned, don't go to the emperor. Chu Tianzheng said coldly, am I going to have to swallow this breath? You have to swallow it if you can't. For the time being, we can only endure it, concubine Duan said coldly, otherwise, do you have a better way? The royal family of Dongling are all here, and Yeching Cheng of Shu Kingdom also came here specially to protect Chu Qinghuang. No matter who wants to make Chu Qinghuang unhappy, there will be no good results. She could see through the emperor's thoughts, and she turned against him faster than anyone else. At today's birthday banquet, she wanted to take this opportunity to remind the emperor who was Chu Qinghuang's biological mother. She had thought that the emperor was thinking about his old feelings and would feel a little guilty and distressed for her. Queen Dongling and Yeching Cheng would also see her as her For the sake of Chu Qinghuang's biological mother, he was very polite to her. However, no one expected that the emperor would be so disrespectful to her. Concubine Duan thought of the embarrassment of not being able to stand down in public, and of Ye Qingqing's harsh words saying that she was not worthy of being a mother in front of so many people. A flash of cold hatred flashed in her eyes. It must be that little bitch Chu Qinghuang who was talking nonsense in front of them, otherwise how could two outsiders be so hostile to her? After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 312. Chu Tianqiu protected Princess Xian back to the palace, and carefully helped her down from the carriage. The two looked at each other, turned around and walked into the palace quietly. The servants greeted her along the way and served her carefully. My father is very determined to make Chu Qinghuang the crown prince. Not even the arrival of his direct grandson can change his decision, Chu Tianqiu said in a calm voice. It seems that the position of crown prince belongs to Chu Qinghuang. Not necessarily, Princess Xian said calmly. This child is our bargaining chip, and it will always be from now until birth. Chu Tianqiu remained silent. It can only be said that the child came at the wrong time. For some reason, Chu Qinghuang managed to attract such good popularity, which made both the queens of Dongling and Shu protect her. Under such circumstances, even if his father wanted to change his mind, he would not be able to do so. If there were no nobles from Dongling and Shu, just with this child, the civil and military ministers of the Manchu dynasty would have to kneel down and beg the emperor to make him his legitimate son. Chu Tianqiu thought in his heart, becoming more and more resentful. My lord, don't you think it's strange that Queen Dongling protects Chu Qinghuang? Princess Xian frowned. The more she thought about it, the more she felt something was wrong. No matter how much you like your daughter, you can't be in chaos just because your daughter is gone. Acknowledging someone else's daughter, and the princess of the same country, is a matter of diplomatic relations between the two countries. How can you do this randomly? An idea flashed in Chu Tianqiu's mind, and his expression suddenly changed. Is it possible that Dongling wants to use this method to win over people's hearts, and then achieve the goal of making Ziki automatically surrender? Princess Xian didn't expect this level. She just thought it was strange. After all, it was too abnormal. The couple was deep in thought and didn't speak again until they entered the main courtyard of the palace and closed the door. Chu Tianqiu said calmly, no matter what their plans are, they must not let the registration ceremony go smoothly. The prince is the rightful heir to the throne. If the emperor accidentally has an accident, then Chu Qinghuang will naturally ascend the throne as the emperor. Even if the ministers object, it will be useless. Until the crown prince is established, no one will be more legitimate than Chu Tianqiu, the legitimate son. But once the crown prince is appointed, the queen's legitimate son will also have to step aside. What should we do now? Princess Xian frowned. Let the queen find a way. The regent and his wife from Dongling live in the eldest princess's mansion. If nothing unexpected happens, Princess Ye of Shu should also stay in the eldest princess's mansion temporarily. Chu Tianqiu's eyebrows were deep. I will see my mother in the past 2 days. Can you find an opportunity? Princess Xian nodded slowly. Yes. You don't have to worry about things in the palace, Chu Tianqiu said calmly. You are only more than 2 months old. During this period, you must pay attention to raising the baby with peace of mind. Giving birth to a legitimate son for this king is the most important thing. Princess Xian's face turned slightly red and she nodded slowly. I know, my lord, don't worry, I will take good care of myself. She also hopes to win a man in one fell swoop. In this way, whether it is the prince's status in front of the emperor or any changes in the future, his chances will be greater than those of other princes. For herself, when the mother-in-law gave birth to the prince's eldest son, her status as a princess became more stable. Even if the prince married a concubine or took a concubine in the future, no one could threaten her status. Princess Xian thought that if the prince was lucky enough to ascend the throne as emperor in the future, then she would be the queen, and the child in her belly would be the eldest son of the noble royal family. No matter how long he was born, her son would be the next prince. After the palace banquet, the emperor was really tired. He returned to Yukian Palace, took off his dragon robe under Chen Hai's service, changed into light and loose clothes, and rested tiredly on the soft brocade couch. Chen Hai handed over a cup of tea and said respectfully, "Your Majesty, please rest for a while if you are tired. We will approve the papers tomorrow." Both Queen Dongling and the Prince Regent have left the palace. They have all left the palace. Chen Hai lowered his eyebrows and said, "Don't worry, Your Majesty, Her Royal Highness the Princess will entertain the distinguished guests well." The Emperor closed his eyes and said in a low voice, "Chen Hai. The slave is here." Wrong. You, the Regent of Dongling, was once a ruthless evil god. His military achievements and ability to govern the world were unmatched. Chen Hai lowered his head to listen and responded, "The regent was very powerful before. His temper is just like his achievements and strong skills. They are indistinguishable." The emperor raised his hands to cover his eyes and sighed faintly. Such a person would actually transfer his feelings for his daughter to another person. Do you think it's possible for an unrelated woman? Chen Hai's heart sank, as if he suddenly understood the emperor's intention in saying these words. His head lowered further. "I don't dare to speak nonsense." The emperor smiled and sighed. King Huang's temper is actually quite similar to that of the regent, and his work style is also similar. If I were not sure that he is my biological daughter, I would probably be suspicious. What do you suspect? The emperor did not continue, but the meaning was already clear. Chen Hai lowered his head and remained silent. "Your Majesty," a young eunuch came in from outside the palace and reported respectfully, "The Queen wishes to see you." You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 313. Chen Hai frowned, turned around and scolded, "Didn't you see that the emperor is tired and wants to rest?" The little eunuch turned pale and turned to exit. "Let the queen come in." The emperor sat up and glanced sideways out of the window. The sky had darkened, announcing that the day was about to pass again. "Has Tianqiu left the palace?" Chen Hai quickly replied, "Yes. His Royal Highness King Xian has accompanied the princess back to the palace." The emperor hummed and said nothing more. The queen quickly walked in with her personal maid. The maid held a jade tray with an exquisite bowl on it. The queen bowed with a dignified and calm smile on her lips. "I know that the emperor is tired, so I asked the small kitchen in the harem to stew a bowl of bird's nest porridge. The emperor can eat a little." The emperor glanced at her, with a smile on his face. The queen is interested. "This is what I should do." The queen turned around and took the bird's nest porridge on the jade plate, then dismissed the maid. "You guys go down first." The palace man bowed his eyebrows and bowed his eyes as he left. The queen walked to the emperor's side with the bird's nest in hand and sat down, stirring it with a spoon, as if she was preparing to serve the emperor. The emperor glanced at her, raised his hand and waved. "Chen Hai, please step aside first, I will stay with the queen for a while." Chen Hai hesitated for a moment, then lowered his head and said, "Yes, I will resign." The palace was quiet for a long time. The queen served the emperor with a spoonful of porridge, and occasionally wiped the corners of his mouth with a handkerchief, showing her virtuous and gentle manner. "How does this bird's nest porridge go?" "Not bad." The emperor smiled lightly, "Thank you for your hard work." Serving the emperor and his concubine is a job that is hard to say the least. The queen put down the bowl and reached out to squeeze his shoulders. "It seems that I haven't served the emperor like this for a long time." The emperor smiled and said, "We are an old married couple, how can we have so much leisure time?" Yes, they are an old married couple. When they were young, the concubines in the harem competed for favor in order to gain the favor of the emperor and give birth to a son and a half daughters. Now at this age, all he wants is the chair under the emperor. Princess Xian is happy, I am very happy. The queen lowered her eyes and said lightly, is the emperor happy? Of course I am happy. The emperor raised his hand and rubbed the center of his brow, and sighed deeply. There have been too many troubles recently, the harem is not peaceful, and neither Tianyan nor Tianzheng can worry about it. I am simply exhausted mentally and physically. After a pause, don't take Tianqiu's being demoted to the county king too seriously. The man has made a promise. Since he has made a bet, he must abide by the bet. Let him stay in the palace for these 2 days. Stay with your daughter-in-law well, and when the opportunity comes, let her accumulate political achievements and earn back the title of prince. The queen was silent for a moment, closing her eyes to cover up the haze in her eyes. Your Majesty. There are a few words that I, my concubine, would not be happy to say. The emperor turned to look at her, and after a moment, he slowly sat upright. Do you want to talk about establishing an heir apparent? The queen nodded. I have always ignored the disputes in the harem, not because I have no thoughts in my heart, but because I don't want to embarrass the emperor. I understand what you are thinking. Tianqiu is the emperor's legitimate son, but the emperor has never considered making him his heir apparent. I feel aggrieved. The emperor and empress have been married for so many years, and they have never expressed their inner thoughts so frankly. The emperor was not angry after hearing this, but just pondered for a moment and said calmly, not only are you wronged, the queen mother and concubine Duan also feel wronged. The queen made a move but said nothing. I know what you are thinking in your heart. The emperor closed his eyes. You all think that I was forced to make Qing Huang the crown prince because of the pressure from Dongling and the kingdom of Shu, right? The queen was silent. Queen, I have some heartfelt words for you today. The emperor sighed. I made the decision to appoint Qing Huang as the heir apparent after careful consideration, and I also expected what I would face, but I had no other choice. I was young when I ascended the throne, and the regent Lin Ao was in charge of the government. I was just a puppet. Even at the age of pro-government, the Lin family was not willing to hand over the power of regent. As a result, the vitality of Ziki was seriously damaged after several years of civil strife. I have worked hard over the years, diligently caring for the people, and caring for the country. I have always wanted to make 11 Qi prosperous, but I have always been unable to do so. The foreign enemies are strong, and tribute is paid year after year. The officials of 11 Qi form cliques, and the national treasury is empty and unable to support troops. This is under this vicious cycle. I once had strong doubts about my abilities. Queen, I am actually not a jealous emperor, nor do I care about the powerful family behind the prince, but I do care about whether my son has the ability to control the powerful family behind him. The emperor tilted his head and smiled bitterly. The answer is no. As long as the emperor is strong and courageous, it doesn't matter if his relatives are more powerful. The emperor has many ways to check and balance. But his sons have no such ability at all. The queen lowered her eyebrows and remained silent, not knowing what she was thinking. Ziki has reached a critical moment and cannot withstand another turmoil. If another powerful enemy attacks now, Ziki will have no power to resist. A look of exhaustion appeared on the emperor's eyebrows. Whether it is a powerful enemy attacking the country or a civil strife in Ziki, the consequences will be terrible. The queen's expression was gloomy, so in the eyes of the emperor, all of his sons are useless. I know in my heart what their abilities are, the emperor said calmly. If one of my 5 sons has the courage and ability of Qing Huang, let alone the appointment of heir apparent, I would be willing to abdicate the throne immediately in favor of someone more worthy. He knew that making Qing Huang the heir would be opposed by many people, but for the sake of Ziki and the people of the world not to suffer from the war, he had no choice but to do so. The queen understood. She stood up and bowed respectfully and knelt down. I will take my leave, Your Majesty. Take a good rest. The emperor had made up his mind, and it was impossible to persuade him to change his mind. In this case, the queen sneered coldly, straightened her back, turned around and left the Yugan palace. Window. Tabula equals window. Tabula. Tabula.push, mode, thumbspeed -01, container, tabula below article thumbnail -300x250, placement, below article thumbnail -300x250, target. Type, mix. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 314. The princess's mansion is very lively. Compared to the flamboyant attendants who used to compete for favors, the gathering of kings from all sides today is a truly awe-inspiring scene. The flamboyant attendants in the princess's mansion were so frightened that they dared not act presumptuously. They stood aside in a proper manner, lowered their eyebrows and eyes, and were extremely well behaved and docile. Tiskia Ching Cheng looked around, with a bit of envy on her face. The princess's good fortune is really enviable. She has married 3 husbands and 4 kings before she officially became the emperor. When she becomes the empress in the future, will she have to look for beauties all over the world? Chu Qing Huang sat calmly drinking tea, and Fu Kang stood behind her, looking at her nose and heart, with a respectful, dull, and rigorous look. What's your name? Ye Qing Chen looked at Hong Yu. Look at this little face, it's so handsome, like a fairy boy walking out of an ancient scroll. Hong Yu lowered her head and dared not say a word even when she was teased. Why are you silent today? Chu Qing Huang raised an eyebrow. Wasn't he the most active in the past? Hong Yu said weakly, Your Highness didn't let me speak, so I didn't dare to speak. The powerful big shots are all here, how dare he mess around? Chu Qing Huang's expression is subtle. Seeing that he is so well behaved, Ye Qing Cheng couldn't help but stretched out her hand to pinch his face. So cute. Hong Yu. Although he always spared no effort to win favor, the word cute is not a bit inappropriate to use on this beautiful boy like him. Qing Chen Yunding frowned and stared at her unbridled hand. Don't always bully the weak. Bully the weak? Ye Qing Cheng turned to look at him. You said he was small, and I could nod my head, but you said he was weak? Tisk tisk tisk, Xiao are you weak? Hong Yu nodded quickly. Fragile, so can you stop pinching his face? Ye Qing Cheng twitched her lips, sneered, and walked slowly to Qi Ling. Are you the son of the king of Zhenbei? Qi Ling sighed silently. Yes. You don't look like your father at all. It's an honor for the younger generation. But you look good, Ye Qing Cheng said. Follow me, I will let you be the general of Shu. Is this poaching in broad daylight? Chu Qing Huang said calmly. Western Qi is in need of people, and Qing Cheng, don't compete with me for people. Lack of people? Ye Qing Cheng didn't take it seriously, and glanced at a regent sitting in the main seat drinking tea. As long as you open your mouth, your father will immediately send you a large number of loyal civil and military talents, who have good looks, can write to pacify the world, and can immediately decide the fate of the world. Qi Ling lowered his eyebrows. I am the eldest princess's man in life and the ghost of the eldest princess in death. Ye Qing Cheng looked at him silently, turned to look at the next one. What's your name? Shen Kongjin. It's a good name. I think so too. Ye Qing Cheng said, my adopted son has just ascended the throne not long ago, and he is still lacking some capable ministers and generals around him. The emperor of Shu has been on the throne for more than 10 years, which does not match the situation of just ascended the throne. Shen Kongjin lowered his head, his tone neither humble nor arrogant, and I can only use an abacus, and I don't know anything else. Ye Qing Cheng frowned. You only know how to use an abacus? Yes. Ye Qing Cheng turned her eyes slightly and looked at Wen Zhan. Before she could say anything, she heard Wen Zhan humbly say, Junior will soon participate in the autumn examination in August. I have been busy preparing for the lessons these 2 days. It is inconvenient to be distracted by other things. Ye Cheng sighed and turned to the seat in front. Niece Huang, your servants are not cute at all, eh? As if she had suddenly discovered a new world, Ye Qingqing's eyes inadvertently fell on the face of the young man behind Chu Huang, and her eyes lit up. This one is not bad. What's his name? Is he also one of your servants? Nan 11, who was sitting quietly at the side, finally held her forehead. Ching Cheng, you should be quiet. Aren't you afraid that Yun Ting will be jealous? We are an old couple. What are you jealous of? Ye Ching Cheng didn't care. Do you really think everyone is like a certain regent, soaking in vinegar all day long? Rong Yu looked calm, and didn't even raise his eyelids. Yun Ting frowned. Do you mean that our feelings have faded? Our feelings have not faded yet. Ching Cheng sat down, holding her chin, and sighed faintly. I just feel like I've missed something. Look at the good fortune of King Huang's niece, it's simply the envy of all women in the world. Yun Ting silently held his forehead. Okay, Nan 11 laughed. Enough of the small talk, it's time to get down to business. Business. Ye Ching Cheng, Yun Ting, Xiejin, Xian Yu and Yao, Rong Zhan were all stunned, and looked at Nan 11 at the same time. What business? After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 315. Everyone soon knew what Nan 11 was talking about. Take on a disciple. Rong Yu's apprenticeship ceremony was very simple, so simple that it didn't even require any advance preparation. So the people present only saw the eldest maid of the eldest princess's house carrying tea. The young man who had been standing beside the eldest princess came out, knelt down silently in front of Rong Yu, took the tea from the teacup, and respectfully presented to Rong Yu, Master, please have tea. Compared to the simple apprenticeship ceremony, the reactions of the onlookers were more intense than the ceremony. Father takes Fuekang as his disciple? Rong Zhan silently looked at Fuekang, who was serving tea, then turned to look at his sister sitting next to him, secretly wondering what he was doing. My sister plans to train his shadow guard to be as powerful as his father? Isn't it bad to be a loyal little dog? She is so powerful, and there is no shortage of capable ministers and generals around her. How good would it be for Fuekang to be a loyal and obedient little shadow guard? Xiejin and Xian Yu and Yao looked at each other and saw sympathy in each other's eyes. The Lord's disciple is not that easy to do. But then again, the Lord doesn't accept disciples casually. After practicing hard, he can cultivate an outstanding general. Rong Zhan frowned. He still felt that his sister's temperament was suitable for a docile little loyal dog. What if Fuekang became stronger and the little loyal dog turned into a wolf cub? Ye Ching Cheng was thoughtful. Rong Yu takes Fuekang as his disciple? This is a surprising thing. What is the reason for accepting a disciple? She glanced at Chu Huang, who was silent. Could it be that she was trying to cultivate a person as powerful as Rong Yu for the eldest princess? Everyone was thinking, but they all remained silent. Rong Yu drank the tea and put it aside. Fuekang immediately took another cup of tea and presented it to Nan 11, please drink tea, master wife. Nan 11 took the tea and took a sip. The apprenticeship ceremony is completed. While I am staying in the eldest princess's residence temporarily, you will stay with me and serve me. Rong Yu said calmly, the time is from Chen hour to Su hour every day. Fuekang pursed his lips and lowered his head in response. This 6 tau is a meeting gift from the king to you. Rong Yu handed over a thick book, you can read it when you have time, and I can ask questions at any time. Xian Yu and Yao was speechless. As expected, the master is still so ruthless. He never pays attention to step-by-step teaching, let alone warmth. The assigned tasks must be completed and the requirements must be met. Of course, during this period, you can take the initiative to ask everything you don't understand, know how to do, are not good at, and don't understand. If you don't ask if you don't understand or are good at it, then the consequences of not being able to complete the task will be regarded as lazy and slippery. The consequences can be very serious. Xian Yuanyao had learned this lesson unforgettably, so he could almost predict how difficult life would be for the taciturn Fukang in the future. Fukang took the book and said yes. Chu Qinghuang glanced at it intently. Six Tao is an ancient book on the art of war, but it is not entirely about the art of war. Compared with ordinary military books, this book includes the essence of life and work, self-cultivation, military strategy, political insights, etc. It has a very high intention. For many people who study and serve as generals, it is a profound thing that is difficult to fully understand. To thoroughly understand, and use it skillfully requires extraordinary understanding, extraordinary experience and strong willpower. Fukang is just a shadow guard, and it is extremely difficult to understand the essence of it for a while. Chu Qinghuang frowned slightly. Only then did she suddenly realize that her father was not very satisfied with Fukang, or even not at all, because no matter in terms of identity, status, or abilities, there was no relationship between Fukang and his daughter. There is a big gap. This is the dissatisfaction that any father in the world will have. Just because Fukang is the person his daughter likes, so he will not object. But the premise of acceptance is that Fukang must improve his abilities, not only military strategy, but also vision, structure, knowledge, cultivation, and tolerance. Therefore, 3 years is not used to make things difficult for anyone or scare anyone, but is a process that Fukang must temper into a strong character. Chu Qinghuang's eyes narrowed slightly. There was no harsh words, no ridicule and belittling, and no opposition and anger. A book of 6 Tao was the difference between Fukang and her. Parents love their children and have far-reaching plans. Her father hopes that the husband she chooses will be one she likes, but at the same time, his ability can match hers. Her liking stems from lust, and her husband must be equally matched. This kind of match is not limited to ability and status, but it's more about a good match of confidence and thought. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 316. The ceremony is very simple. Serving tea means accepting the disciple, and drinking tea means accepting the disciple. There was no unnecessary nonsense, not even the simplest instructions. The 6 Tao book is the task that Fukang needs to complete in the next 3 years. Get up, Nan 11 smiled softly. From now on, we will be part of the family dash. The wind blew suddenly outside. Whoosh. A figure rushed over quickly, kneeling down and reporting, "Your Highness, something happened in the palace." After the words fell, Chu Qinghuang stood up suddenly and said coldly, "What's the matter?" "The emperor has been poisoned. There is no danger of his life, but his condition is not good." Chu Qinghuang's face turned cold. "Fukang, follow me into the palace." Fukang stood up. "Yes." Chu Qinghuang turned around and bowed towards Rongyu and Nan 11, "Father and Queen, please sit down for a moment. I'll be back soon." Rongyu ordered, "Go with your sister." Rongzhan accepted the order. "Yes." Hongyu weakly raised her hand, "I want to go too." Chu Qinghuang glanced at him and said, "Let's go." After saying that, he didn't stay any longer and hurriedly turned around and walked out with Fukang, followed closely by Rongzhan and Hongyu. There was silence in the hall. Ye Qingcheng watched the two brothers and sisters leaving in silence, frowning slightly. Someone jumped over the wall in a hurry. Probably so, Xiejin smiled. Originally there should be a chance before the crown prince ceremony, but who would have thought that the Lord and His Majesty did not plan to leave, and Princess Yechang also wanted to stay. In this way, some people's the plan failed, so naturally we had to find a way to do something. Stupid Ye Cheng raised his lips nonchalantly. The fact that the emperor is still sitting on the dragon throne means that there is always a chance to make a comeback. Now that he has taken action in a hurry, I am afraid that the result will be unbearable for them. Xiejin was silent for a moment, then turned to look at Rong Yu. Compared with what happened in the palace, I actually want to know why the Lord accepted Fukang as his disciple. Rong Yu took a sip of tea. He is the person Nuan likes. Xiejin was silent. Because he is the person that the little princess likes, so you accept his identity unconditionally. All right. The Lord never cares about identity and status when looking at people, just like he used to do when employing people, no matter whether he is a legitimate son or a concubine, no matter whether he is a noble son or a descendant of a poor family, as long as he has ability and outstanding character. Now he treats the people his daughter likes with the same attitude. It was beyond Xiejin's expectation. He thought that parents always have to pick and choose the best one for their daughter, but he didn't expect, although Fukang is not the best choice, after being shaped by his family master, he can probably experience the best one. Good comes out. The elders stayed at the eldest princess's residence to drink tea and reminisce about old times. Chu Qinghuang and Rong Zhan rushed to the palace and entered Yuqian Palace directly. People in the palace were coming in and out, looking flustered. In the palace, the doctors were checking the emperor's pulse. When Chu Qinghuang walked to the palace door, she was stopped. The palace people said tremblingly, "The emperor has decreed that no one is allowed to enter." Presumptuous, Chen Hai quickly came over and scolded, "Is Her Royal Highness the eldest princess anyone? Don't let her in." "Yes." Chu Qinghuang walked into the inner hall unobstructed and asked coldly, "How is the father's condition?" "Your Highness, please don't worry. The emperor is fine for the time being." Chen Hai hurriedly led Chu Qinghuang to the bed. "It's just that there is no way to detoxify it for a while." Detoxification. Chu Qinghuang's expression turned cold. "You mean someone poisoned my father?" Chen Hai lowered his head and knelt down. "Old slave, you deserve to die." "Who poisoned my father?" Chen Hai's face was as white as paper. The queen came here half an hour ago and gave the emperor a bowl of bird's nest." After the words fell, the whole hall was filled with dead silence. After hearing these words, all the palace people knelt on the ground in shock. The imperial doctors were also panic-stricken. They all saw the fear on each other's faces when they looked at each other. They could hardly believe what they heard, and even wanted to become temporarily deaf, but how could eunuch Chen? The queen poisoned the emperor? If this matter is true, things will change in the palace. Chu Qinghuang's face was sullen, his eyebrows were covered with frost, and he stood in front of the bed without saying a word. Looking at the emperor who was lying on the bed with an abnormal expression, he said, "Hong Yu." Yes. Hong Yu stepped forward, opened the emperor's mouth, and quickly stuffed an antidote into it. The imperial doctor had no time to stop them. When they reacted, their expressions changed. "What are you doing? What did you feed the emperor?" "Everyone, please don't be so panicked." Hong Yu frowned. "What I gave the emperor was an antidote pill, not a poison." "What are the results of your diagnosis so far?" The imperial doctor was speechless. They really didn't diagnose anything. The emperor's poison should be colorless, odorless, and asymptomatic. A mouthful of blood spurted out. The emperor, who was lying unconscious on the bed, suddenly vomited a mouthful of blood, and then coughed violently. Cough, cough, cough. Cough, cough, cough. The blood splatters are shocking. "Your Majesty," Chen Hai quickly stepped forward to help the emperor. "How is your Majesty?" After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 317. The imperial doctors also stared at the emperor eagerly. "I'm fine." The emperor leaned against the bedside and ordered tiredly, with a solemn tone, "You all get out." The imperial doctors hesitated for a moment, then bowed and left. Who poisoned my father? Chu Qinghuang stood in front of the bed with a calm voice. The emperor looked up at her. What do you think? Chu Qinghuang frowned. She shouldn't be the queen. The emperor didn't expect her to say that. He was silent for a moment and asked, why? She has been able to endure it calmly for so long, so she won't lose her temper at this time, Chu Qinghuang said in a calm voice. But Chen Hai said that the queen came to deliver birds' nests to her father in person, which cannot remove her suspicion. The emperor smiled. What if she really did it? Chu Qinghuang said nothing. I thought you were going to seize Changchun Palace, the emperor sighed. This is a perfect opportunity. The crime of regicide is enough to make the queen, mother, and son irrecoverable. Chu Qinghuang frowned. Is this the reason why my father was poisoned? The emperor looked at her with a somewhat embarrassed expression. Isn't this reason enough? It's just nonsense. Chu Qinghuang looked calm. This is because I came in time. If I come a step late or encounter something on the way and delay it, what are you going to do? The emperor coughed lightly. Actually, I was not poisoned. Chen Hai was stunned, and his heart almost stopped due to fright. It turns out that the emperor was not poisoned. Then the acting was so realistic just now. Chu Qinghuang looked at him expressionlessly. Is His Majesty the Emperor just playing a trick, or is he trying to strike first? Rongzhan walked in slowly and shook his head. Sister Qinghuang heard that something happened to the emperor, so she rushed over in a hurry, for fear that she would be late. I got some bad news, but I didn't expect it to be from the emperor. I didn't mean it. The emperor cleared his throat, but pretended to be calm and said, I just suddenly had a flash of inspiration and thought of this idea. Chu Qinghuang's brows furrowed deeper and deeper. It's not a matter of taking advantage of the situation, His Majesty, the Emperor said. It is more reasonable to strike first. After saying that, he added as if to explain, anyway, even if I don't pretend, the Queen will take action sooner or later. This is how I nip the hidden danger in the bud. Chu Qinghuang remained silent. The Queen will indeed not watch the throne fall by the wayside. At today's palace banquet, the news that Princess Xian was happy was a way for her to test the emperor. After all, the female members of the royal family are always attended by people. If there is any abnormality, they will ask a doctor for diagnosis. It is impossible for her to be pregnant today. Only then did I know. Asking Ye Qingchen when he will leave is also a test. The Queen wanted to wait until the distinguished guests from Dongling and Shu had left before taking action, but Ye Qingchen's answer disappointed her, so the Queen was angry and used the opportunity of sending birds' nests to test the emperor's intentions in person at night. After the last hope failed, she should have had an idea, but she wouldn't take action now. Chu Qinghuang was deep in thought when suddenly there was the sound of hurried footsteps outside, and then the voices of King Rong and others were heard. I send you your regards, Your Majesty. Chu Qinghuang came back to her senses and turned to look outside the hall. I ask someone to inform them, the emperor said, and said in a deep voice, come in. After the words fell, Prince Rong and his son, Prince Kong, Prince Jing, and Prince Heping came in from outside the palace and all knelt down to salute the emperor. Rongzhan's eyes fell on the middle-aged men in front of him. He could roughly guess their identities by looking at their robes. Hongyu, the emperor wants to discuss business with the princes. We, the rest, will go out first. Hongyu nodded and walked out with Rongzhan. Xianyi, the emperor spoke with a cold and murderous tone, the queen intends to kill the king. I order you to immediately lead the imperial army to surround the Changchun palace and not allow anyone to enter or exit. In addition, according to my decree, I ordered King Xian to stay in the palace to take care of the palace. No one in Prince Xian's palace is allowed to go out without permission. Queen regicide. The expressions of King Rong and others suddenly changed. I obey the order. Chu Xuanyi accepted the order, turned around and walked out. There was an oppressive silence in the hall. The princes and princes of the clan obviously did not expect to hear such shocking news as soon as they came in. They also did not expect that the queen would dare to have such a rebellious thought. They just felt that their whole bodies were frozen and cold, unable to react. Inform the ministers of the cabinet and the 6 ministers. The emperor leaned on the bedside and ordered in a deep voice word by word, I am not in good health and will be absent from the court for 1 month. From now on, the eldest princess will supervise and regent the country. All matters in the court, big and small, will be decided by the eldest princess. Anyone who dares to be lazy and play tricks will be dealt with by the eldest princess. Several royal princes knelt on the ground and listened to the emperor's careful arrangements, which included confining the queen, restricting the movements of Prince Xian and his wife, and leaving the eldest princess as regent. Step by step, the power of the government was smoothly transferred to the eldest princess. No one will be able to resist. The emperor was determined to appoint the eldest princess and would not allow anyone to change his decision. The emperor thought for a while and made another decision, while I am recuperating, concubine Xian will take care of me. Father Chu Qinghuang frowned and finally couldn't help but say, even if you want to abdicate, you are not in a hurry. I don't want to. Whether you want it or not is your business. The emperor interrupted her, obviously determined, my decree has been made, you must not resist it. Chu Qinghuang. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 318. The drama in the palace came unexpectedly, leaving everyone unprepared. Changchun Palace was sealed, Prince Xian and his wife were banned, the emperor fell ill, and Her Royal Highness the Princess was ordered to act as regent. A series of things seemed to happen in just a moment. When the ministers returned to the palace, they calmed down, and things happened. It's over. After the emperor woke up from poisoning, he hurriedly summoned several royal family members, cabinet ministers, and 6 ministers of King Rong, and made the decisions one by one with the thunderous force of his weak body. The sudden change of the emperor's poisoning was frightening, and he was completely frightened. There was no intention to oppose the eldest princess regency move. At this moment, they wished that the emperor had forgotten them, but they never dared to seek presence in front of the emperor at this juncture. They were afraid that they would be implicated in the regicide party. If they were given a crime at will, they would be easily confiscated and exterminated, or exiled for 3,000 miles. Therefore, Chu Qinghuang's takeover of the regent power went particularly smoothly. It's just that the emperor's decision was too sudden. Even if Chu Qinghuang was decisive, he didn't expect this at all, so the busyness in the next few days was almost foreseeable. Eunuch Chen Chu Qinghuang turned around and ordered, my father is ill. Please take good care of him these 2 days. I will arrange for 2 people to come over. All meals and tea presented to my father must be tested for poison by a dedicated person, don't be careless. Chen Hai respectfully accepted the order, Your Highness, Princess, don't worry, I will be extremely cautious. I will send people to keep an eye on the imperial dining room and the tea room, and I will also order people to pay special attention to all the palace servants who serve my father. Chu Qinghuang ordered coldly, you can go and warn anyone later. If a person dares to do something he shouldn't do at this time, I will definitely make him regret coming into this world. Yes, I will definitely do it. Chu Qinghuang arranged everything that needed to be arranged one by one, but when she turned around, she found that the emperor was looking at her seriously, with an expression that couldn't help but ask, Father, is there anything you need to add? Qinghuang, the emperor said sincerely, I am ill. This is your chance. You can turn a blind eye. Chu Qinghuang is such a smart person, he immediately understood the meaning of this sentence. There was nothing sensational, nor did she pretend to be filial. She just said lightly, my father is the only person in the Ziki royal family who treats my son well. My son will not let you feel cold. The emperor was speechless for a moment, feeling both sad and moved at the same time. I was moved that Qing Huang was indeed his carrying little cotton-padded jacket, and his love for her was not in vain. What was sad was that King Huang's life had not been easy these years. Father, don't worry, Qing Huang didn't mind touching him a little more. In addition to allowing you to enjoy your old age, I will also make Ziki better and better. You will definitely see Ziki become strong in your lifetime. Maybe Urchin can expand the territory of 11 Qi. Of course, Urchin is a peace-loving person, and it's hard to say whether the territory will be expanded or not, so don't have high hopes. The Emperor sighed deeply. Conquering the world is not what I want to see, so I really don't have any ideas in this regard. You can make the treasury more abundant, the people's lives better, the army stronger, and there are no foreign enemies to invade. You don't have to looking at the faces of other powerful countries. I am satisfied. Qing Huang promised him, my son will do it. After the conversation ended, Qing Huang resigned and left. On the way out of Yuqian Palace, Qing Huang asked lightly, have you gone to Changchun Palace to check? Fu Ying has found out the news. Fu Kang replied, the queen is sending bird's nest tonight because she wants to test the emperor's mouth for the last time. She has no other thoughts. There is no poison in the bird's nest porridge tonight, but the queen already has a clue. The emperor's plan to poison is chronic and has hallucinogenic effects. It will not happen all at once. If there are no obstacles to the plan, it will be completed before the enthronement ceremony. Being so unaware of the situation, the emperor would not suddenly die of a seizure, but would personally change the plan to establish heir apparent, and no one would even notice the abnormality. Of course, this was just the queen's wishful thinking. Qing Huang knew in her heart that the plan used by the queen was actually the most commonly used method in the harem over the years. The only difference was that some people could succeed and others could never recover. She frowned and thought for a moment, and then she suddenly spoke. The book 6 Tao talks about many things. In addition to military strategies, it also includes the emperor's use of people, checks and balances of power, intrigues, conspiracy, and the villain. The cultivation of temperament and conduct as a king and general, all aspects are included. You may find it difficult to understand it at first, but be sure not to be impatient and not hesitate to ask. Fu Kang lowered his head and said, please keep this in mind. Go back tonight, and I will tell you what you need to pay attention to in the future. Qing Huang turned her head, raised her hand and pinched his face. You can only become a master by enduring hardships. I believe in you, it will get better and better. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 319. Chu Xuanyi, what are you doing? The queen looked at the imperial army that suddenly surrounded Changchun Palace and shouted sternly, this is so presumptuous. Please forgive me. The queen. Chu Xuanyi bowed and saluted. His tone was neither humble nor overbearing. The emperor has an edict. The queen is suspected of regicide. From today onwards, the queen will stay in Changchun Palace and is not allowed to go out. Please cooperate with the queen. Suspected of regicide? The queen's face changed drastically. That's nonsense. She hadn't even had time to implement her plan, so how could she be suspected of regicide? This bloody and slanderous king. I am also acting according to the order, Chu Xuanyi said in a calm tone. After speaking, he raised his hand and ordered, guard here, no one is allowed to come or go. Yes. The queen was shocked and angry. Chu Xuanyi, how dare you? Chu Xuanyi really dared. The confession was only based on the etiquette of the emperor and his ministers, but he knew well the purpose of the emperor's confinement of the queen, and he also knew that the country of 11 Qi was already in the eldest princess's pocket. The higher the others jumped, the faster they would die. No matter it is Chu Tianqiu, Chu Tianyin, or Chu Tianling who is secretly planning and waiting for the opportunity, there is no room for struggle anymore. Chu Xuanyi arranged the guards of Changchun Palace, and when he turned to leave, he couldn't help but look at the sky. He has always been a calm and rational person, but now he has to believe that the eldest princess may really be a person blessed by the gods. Which of the queen mothers, queens, noble concubines, and concubines Duan, among the powerful women in the harem, is the most economical lamp? The three princes Chu Tianling, Chu Tianqiu, and Chu Tianyin all had strong backing. They had been planning for so many years, but in the end they all lost to the eldest princess who was least likely to compete for the throne. Chu Xuanyi was once again grateful for his decision that night. The decree was conveyed to concubine Xian. Concubine Xian, who had already taken off her clothes and makeup, seemed to have heard a fantasy. What? Chen Hai respectfully repeated, the emperor is ill and has ordered concubine Xian to attend to his illness. Concubine Xian sat blankly on the mahogany stool in front of the dressing table, and couldn't help but think that the emperor really had some ulterior motives. Let yourself serve the sick? Serve a ghost. When you were young, you didn't dote on her, but now you think of her when you're not feeling well. Concubine Xian. Concubine Xian frowned. Why urge? Let me think about it. Chen Haijing, think about it? Do you still want to think about it? Is the emperor so ungraceful? Eunuch Chen, let me ask you. Concubine Xian turned around and decided to ask straight to the point, what is the emperor planning? Chen Hai was shocked. Empress? Don't say you don't know. Concubine Xian, you'd better go ask the emperor. Chen Hai said with a smile, I don't dare to speculate on the holy will. Nonsense. Don't you dare to speculate on the holy will? The most favored Grand Duke around the emperor needs to speculate on the holy will? He was afraid that he would know exactly what the emperor was thinking. Concubine Xian frowned, always feeling that it was not a good thing for the emperor to ask her to serve at this time, but then she thought about it. She neither participated in the harem fights, nor did she have any sons competing for the heir apparent, and she never instigated anyone to fight against anyone in the court. Even on the matter of Chu Qinghuang being established as the crown prince, she did not express any opinions. Anyway, her opinions had no effect and could be ignored. Therefore, the emperor would not be suspicious or dissatisfied with her. Thinking of this, concubine Xian suddenly felt at ease. After ordering someone to bring a coat and put it on, concubine Xian stood up and said calmly, let's go. Chen Hai hesitated. Is this how concubine Xian will go? How else can we go if we don't go like this? Concubine Xian looked at herself in the mirror. She had taken off all her hairpin jewelry, her hair was scattered, and her makeup had been removed. Her bare face was indeed not as radiant as during the day. The sky has turned dark. It's late, I can't possibly dress up in all my glory to attend to illness. Chen Hai was right when he thought about it. He was used to the way these concubines looked bright and beautiful in front of the emperor, but he ignored the special situation at the moment. Concubine Xian, please. Concubine Xian walked out. Arriving at Yuqian Palace in a sedan chair and walking into the inner hall, Concubine Xian was startled when she saw the emperor half leaning in front of the couch approving gifts. The situation in front of her was different from what she had imagined. Didn't you say that you were waiting for the sick? She thought the emperor should be lying weakly on the bed, waiting for her to bring him tea and medicine. Concubine Xian is here. The emperor looked up and saw her, smiled and waved to her. His tone was extremely kind. Come here, sharpen the ink for me. Grinding ink? Concubine Xian murmured in her heart, and she respectfully agreed, walked to the desk, knelt down on the futon, and said, didn't the emperor ask my concubine to come here to attend to your illness? I am indeed a little unhappy. The emperor's eyes fell on the opened folder and his voice was calm, but mainly I want to talk to you. Concubine Xian's expression was subtle. The emperor and my concubine had never been romantically involved when they were young. Now that they are over 50, why do they think of their tender love? Over 50, His Majesty the Emperor frowned. I am 30-something this year, and concubine Xian is only in her 30s. It is the time when all kinds of charm are still there. Concubine Xian's mouth twitched. Is this the point? The Emperor obviously didn't think this was the important point, and quickly asked, is concubine Xian's natal family in Yunqing? Yes. I've been in the palace for so many years, and I haven't gone back to get married. No. When a woman enters the palace, she has no control over everything. The most favored concubine can only go home once every few years, let alone the one who is not favored. Empress Yen lowered her eyebrows. She hadn't seen her family for more than 10 years. She felt melancholy. Her nephews and nieces were almost adults. She didn't know what their family was like now. I have been feeling unwell recently. I want Qing Huang to be the regent, His Majesty the Emperor said to himself. Wait until Ziki settles down. Can I accompany you back to Yunqing? Empress Yen was stunned and raised her head slowly. What did the Emperor say? Wait until Qing Huang is established as the crown prince. Let her be the regent. I will accompany you to Yunqing. The Emperor's tone was very serious. It was obvious that he was not joking with her. After returning to Yunqing, go somewhere else to see the beautiful scenery of Ziki. Empress Yen was strangely silent. The more she listened, the more she felt that something was wrong. What exactly does the Emperor want to do? How can the king of a country leave the palace at will? Isn't he afraid of being assassinated on the road and dying? The queen and several concubines in the palace, including his son, were probably all resentful and dissatisfied with him because of the issue of the crown prince. He actually wanted to leave the palace at this time. Empress Yen, seeing her silence, the emperor raised his eyebrows. Why don't you say anything? Too surprised. Surprise, fart. Concubine Xian looked at him calmly. It is not safe for a king to leave the palace. If the emperor wants me to go home to visit my parents, I can go back by myself. Please arrange more people for me. I will never embarrass you, bring discredit to the royal family, or do anything I shouldn't do. Concubine Xian, the emperor suddenly interrupted her and coughed lightly. It is I who want to leave the palace and take you home to visit your parents. Concubine Xian. Window. Tabula equals window. Tabula. Tabula.push, mode, thumbs feed -01, container, tabula below article thumbnail -300x250, placement, below article thumbnail -300x250, target. Type, mix. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 320. After leaving the palace gate, Rongzhan and Hongyu were waiting beside the horses. When they saw Chu Qinghuan coming out, Rongzhan said with a faint smile, I didn't expect that the emperor would play such a trick at this time. The news that the princess was happy at the palace banquet greatly boosted the morale of the queen's party. All civil and military officials thought it was a surprise. However, before the surprise could be warmed up, the emperor sang the song in the evening. A basin of cold water was poured down, instantly chilling the queen and Prince Qian and his wife. I'm afraid it's a result that no one expected. Chu Qinghuang was silent for a moment. He wants to learn from his father. Rongzhan was puzzled, what to study? Chu Qinghuang looked at him silently. Rongzhan understood and couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. He also wants to abdicate early and go out for sightseeing. Chu Qinghuang hummed. Tisk. Rongzhan couldn't help but shake his head. My father and I have different ideas. My father did not simply want to travel around, but he wanted to stay with his mother all the time. He wanted to live a good life with her in the remaining decades and did not want to be occupied by government affairs. Traveling around the mountains and rivers just makes the two people's lives more pleasant. Could it be that the Emperor of Ziki wanted to leave the concubines in the palace and go out alone to experience what it was like to be alone? He also has someone to take him out. Chu Qinghuang got on his horse and said, concubine Xian has no children, so she can accompany him. Hearing this, Rongzhan couldn't help but clicked his tongue again. Okay, anyway, there is no harm in His Majesty the Emperor abdicating the throne early. Now most of the power of Ziki is in the hands of Qinghuang. The queen, concubines, and princes in the harem are half dead and probably can't struggle anymore. I wasted an antidote pill in vain. Hongyu curled his lips. His Majesty the Emperor is so annoying. Chu Qinghuang glanced at him. Where did you get your antidote pills? Mr. Chu gave them to me, Hongyu said. I only gave them 3 pills. I kept them just in case. Chu Ling Chuan has returned to Dongling. 1 detoxifying pill is needed, which is very precious. Chu Qinghuang said, when I have the opportunity to find suitable medicinal materials in the future, I will ask Ling Chuan to make more for you. Your Highness puts it lightly. The medicinal materials required to develop antidote pills are extremely rare and expensive. Even if you have money, you may not be able to buy them. It takes a lot of time and energy to find them. Hongyu frowned. Among them, snow lotus is particularly rare. It blooms in extremely cold weather. Sometimes we may not be able to find a suitable plant for several years. Rongzhan glanced at him lightly. Xiao Yuer, do you talk so much? Hongyu shrank her neck and shut up immediately. It was already very late when we returned to the princess mansion. Rongyu and Nan 11, Yeqing Cheng and Yunding, Xiejin and Xianyu and Yao all went to rest under the arrangement of the housekeeper. Rongzhan said goodbye to Qinghuang outside the Dongzhang Pavilion Master's Hall. Go to bed early in the evening and don't stay up too late. Chu Qinghuang hummed. This, Rongzhan's eyes fell on Fukang's face, and he wanted to say something, but when the words came to his lips, he said, forget it, I don't care about your affairs. After saying that, he waved his hand and turned to leave. Go to bed early. Chu Qinghuang stared at his back silently, her eyebrows slightly furrowed, and after a while she turned around and walked towards the bedroom. Minjiao and Jinlan immediately brought people to wait on him, wash and change clothes, and take off the hairpins from his hair. After finishing a series of tasks, Chu Qinghuang lazily sat down on the soft couch. Taking the warm water handed over by Minjiao, Chu Qinghuang took a sip and looked up to see the young man who was hesitant to speak. What? Fukang hesitated. Should I go and pay my respects to master and mistress first? He has never been a master, so he doesn't know if other people's masters need to calm down in the morning and dusk. Rongyu didn't set any rules for him when he served tea with his master today. He really doesn't know what he needs to abide by. Chu Qinghuang said calmly, no need. Fukang looked at her silently. It's getting late, and my father probably doesn't like you disturbing him at this time. Chu Qinghuang said in a lazy tone, if you are truly respectful, you only need to use the shortest time to complete the task he gave you, don't let he just thinks you are a piece of rotten wood that cannot be carved. Fukang pursed his lips, yes he must have tried hard to look smart. Go and wash yourself, then get the book your father gave you, and I will tell you about it. He nodded supportively, yes. Window. Tabula equals window. Tabula. Tabula.push, mode, thumbspeed -01, container, tabula below article thumbnail -300x250, placement, below article thumbnail -300x250, target. Type, mix.